You are now listening to the Vegan Stuff podcast with Caavakushi.
Hosting this podcast today are our two AI hosts, Sam and Kim. If you simply can't get enough of us, go to Caavakushi.com and sign up for our vegan newsletter and get our free 7-day high-protein vegan meal plan. And we also have some good news. We will be releasing our first ever cookbook pretty soon, so stay tuned. Hey, don't forget to follow us on our socials too.
Welcome back to Vegan Stuff with Caavakushi. I'm here stoked to delve into some truly groundbreaking discoveries with you all today.
And hey there, plant-powered pals. I'm joining you. And get ready, because we're about to unearth some seriously delicious truth bombs. Like, forget everything you thought you knew about what fueled our ancestors.
It's going to be good.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. We're taking a deep dive into the diets of our so-called cavemen. And, the evidence we've gathered might just make some of those old assumptions wilt like forgotten lettuce.
Huh, good one.
Forget the beefy hunter image. We're talking roots, tubers, nuts, and maybe, just maybe, a prehistoric plant-based revolution.
Oh, this is right up our alley. Prepare for some major myth-busting, everyone. We've got some fascinating finds that are rewriting the history books or maybe the prehistoric produce guides.
Okay, let's unpack this. For so long, the dominant image has been the hunter, right? The guy bringing home the woolly mammoth, not bacon, obviously.
Exactly. And that paleo diet, still kicking around, really hammered home this idea of a primarily meat-eating past.
Yeah, that whole trend, while it encourages ditching processed foods, which is great, it often leans really heavily on animal protein, kind of mimicking what they thought were pre-agricultural diets.
Right. But what if that whole foundation is a bit shaky?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because some recent studies are suggesting that the whole macho caveman narrative might be, not quite right. One archaeologist, Randy Haas, actually suggests that the biases of early archaeologists, who were, let's face it, mostly male, mostly Western, might have led to an overemphasis on hunting.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who was telling these stories and what were their assumptions baked in?
Totally.
And Randy Haas actually put some numbers on this. He said, our analysis shows that the diets were composed of 80% plant matter and 20% meat.
80%.
Yeah, 80%. That's a whole lot of plants. It's almost enough to make you want to offer those old cave drawings a little vegan makeover.
Right. It paints a very different picture than the steak and berries image we usually get. Okay, so let's dig into some specific evidence.
Yeah, let's do it.
One fascinating study focused on the Ibero-Mauritian culture in North Africa. This is going back around 15,000 to 13,000 years ago in present-day Morocco.
Morocco. So think vibrant Mediterranean flora, even way back then. And these researchers weren't just like dusting off fossils. They were using some really serious scientific methods.
Absolutely. They used advanced techniques like zinc and strontium isotope analysis in dental enamel. Think of it like a nutritional fingerprint left in their teeth.
Wow.
Yeah. And they also looked at carbon, nitrogen, and sulfur and collagen, and even amino acid analysis. These methods can tell us a surprising amount about what these people were actually eating.
Okay, so what did these molecular detectives find out about the Ibero-Mauritian diet? Was it all tagine? Kidding.
Well, the findings were pretty eye-opening. The study, as you mentioned, clearly indicated that these hunter-gatherers ate a significant amount of plants, specifically Mediterranean species. And what's really wild is that this was thousands of years before farming even took hold in that region.
So they were super skilled foragers then, knowing exactly what to gather from their environment. Did they figure out what plants?
They did. Archaeobotanical remains, basically preserved plant bits found at the sites, showed evidence of acorns, pine nuts, and wild pulses.
Acorns and pine nuts?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like a pretty decent plant-based starter kit.
Right. You can almost picture them gathering these nutritious staples. And there was something else interesting about their teeth, wasn't there? Something about cavities.
Yep. The researchers found a surprisingly high number of cavities in their remains.
Which points towards carbs, right?
Exactly. Now, the source mentioned possibilities like beets, corn, rye, cassava, though, corn and cassava probably weren't in North Africa that early.
Right. Good point.
But the key takeaway is that the cavities strongly suggest they were eating a lot of fermentable, starchy plants. So think wild tubers, roots, things full of those energy-rich carbs.
Kind of like our modern love affair with vegan sourdough, maybe. Just slightly less refined.
Stone Age comfort food. And one of the researchers, Clivia Joanne, even highlighted how unusual this was. She noted it was the first time these isotope techniques revealed such a large plant-based component in a Paleolithic diet before agriculture.
It really makes you reconsider that image of the purely carnivorous caveman, doesn't it?
Totally upends it. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Caavakushi.
Did you know we have a vegan search engine, a vegan forum, a vegan newsletter, and so much more coming soon? So why not check us out at Caavakushi.com.
And it wasn't just the adults enjoying this plant-rich diet, apparently. There's evidence suggesting these plant foods were also important for weaning infants.
Which is really interesting because in many hunter-gatherer societies we know of, breastfeeding tends to last longer, maybe because there aren't always suitable weaning foods readily available.
Ah, okay.
So this reliance on starchy plants suggests they had readily available, maybe easily digestible plant-based options for their little ones. Plant-powered from the start.
Love it. Okay, let's travel across continents now. Let's head to the Peruvian Andes. What were the ancient people living way up high in those mountains, eating, say, around 9,000 to 6,500 years ago?
Up in those high altitudes, yeah. At sites like Willamaya Pachesa and Soromacaya Pacheca, researchers analyzed bones, teeth, burnt plant remains, and even like the wear patterns on their teeth.
Okay, and what's the story? Let me guess. 80% plants.
You got it. The evidence suggests their diet was, again, about 80% plant matter and only 20% meat. That 80% figure just keeps popping up.
It's uncanny. It's almost like our ancestors were, secret vegans, or at least very veggie forward.
It really does make you wonder about the narratives we've been fed, literally. So what were their go-to plant foods in the Andes?
Tubers.
Potatoes.
Mostly wild tubers. According to Jennifer Chen, the lead author, they were mostly eating plant foods like wild tubers. The wear patterns on their teeth, specifically their upper front teeth, strongly suggest they were processing a lot of tubers, probably wild potatoes.
A whole civilization fueled by spuds. Potato power.
Basically. So while we might picture them hunting llamas, it seems they were more likely masters of unearthing delicious roots.
And what about that 20% meat? Was it llama? The analysis indicates they primarily hunted large mammals. Yeah, like deer or possibly llamas. So meat was definitely part of the diet, but it really seems like it wasn't the main event.
More like a side dish to their hearty plant-based meals.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Okay, let's go even further back, way back, like 780,000 years ago in present-day Israel. What can remnants from that long ago tell us?
Okay, this is mind-blowing. At a site near Gesher Benot Yaakov, researchers found basalt tools used by early hominids. And get this, they found preserved starch grains on the tools.
No way. Direct evidence. From nearly 1 million years ago.
Yep, direct proof of the plants they were processing.
Wow. Okay, so what kind of ancient plant-based cuisine were they whipping up with these tools?
The variety is astonishing. They found evidence of acorns, grass grains, water chestnuts, yellow water lily rhizomes, even legume seeds.
So a really diverse plant diet.
Totally. It suggests they had this sophisticated knowledge of their environment and were using a wide range of plant resources pretty much all year round, like a year-round vegan feast.
That's incredible. There was a quote from Dr. Hadar Ahituf, who led that study, right?
Yeah, he said it opens a new chapter in the study of early human diets and their profound connection to plant-based foods. It really shifts the whole conversation.
It really does. And didn't they also suggest a link between these starchy foods and brain development?
They did. The researchers theorized that this focus on energy-rich plant foods like starchy tubers, nuts, and roots might be linked to the high energy demands of the developing human brain.
Fueling those early thinkers with plant power makes perfect sense. Brain food, courtesy of Mother Nature.
Exactly.
So,
Did you know we have a vegan search engine, a vegan forum, a vegan newsletter, and so much more coming soon? So why not check us out at Caavakushi.com.
welcome back to Vegan Stuff with Caavakushi. Across all these different times and places, North Africa, South America, the Middle East, we're seeing this consistent pattern. Plants played a much more significant role than we maybe ever gave them credit for. Why do you think that might have been the case?
Well, there are probably several factors. Like we saw with the Ibero-Mauritians, maybe there was just a wider availability of edible plants in some areas. Or perhaps a decrease in large game populations pushed them towards more reliable plant staples.
Resource management, essentially.
Could be. Plus, we have to remember the inherent bias in the archaeological record itself. Bones and stone tools just last longer, They preserve better than delicate plant remains.
Right. So we might have been missing a huge part of the picture all along just because it didn't survive as well.
Precisely. It's like finding a few sturdy stone chairs in an ancient room and assuming that's all the furniture there ever was, completely overlooking maybe the baskets or mats that just disintegrated over time.
Good analogy. Okay, so if all this evidence points to a more plant-centric past for many populations, what does that say about the popular meat-heavy paleo diet that so many people still follow?
Well, to put it mildly, these findings really throw a wrench in the whole eat like your caveman ancestors argument, at least as it's usually presented.
Yeah, the version that's all steak and bacon.
Right. That idea that our Paleolithic relatives were primarily wolfing down meat just doesn't seem to hold up when you look at this growing body of evidence. For many of them, the true caveman diet looks a lot more like, well, our kind of diet.
Looks like the paleo diet has some serious root issues. Or maybe root canal issues.
Root canal issues. Love it. That's good.
So this brings us to today, and the whole movement towards veganism. These ancient diets seem to provide such a powerful historical precedent. They show that humans can not only survive, but really thrive on primarily plant-based foods.
Exactly. It's not just some modern fad or like a niche lifestyle choice. It might actually be tapping into a much older, deeper way of eating that's part of our heritage.
It adds a whole new layer to the conversation, doesn't it? It's not just about the crucial ethical considerations for animals or the undeniable environmental benefits, although those are hugely important, of course.
Of course.
But it also suggests that a plant-centered diet is deeply aligned with our evolutionary history. It's in our roots, you could say, quite literally.
Yeah. And for many of us in the vegan community, these findings feel like a kind of validation, don't they? Especially considering the constant questioning we often face about, getting enough protein or whether it's natural.
Oh, totally. It's hard not to feel like we've been, fed a certain narrative by the meat and dairy industries for decades. I remember when I first went vegan, the number of people who acted like I was embarking on some bizarre, unsustainable experiment was just, wow. Where will you get your protein? That was the constant question.
Oh, I hear you. The protein question. As if the entire plant kingdom was just nutritionally void.
Exactly. It's like we've been conditioned to believe that animal products are somehow essential, despite, overwhelming scientific evidence showing otherwise. And now, this fascinating historical perspective adding weight to it.
It really makes you wonder about all the marketing and, frankly, the lobbying dollars that have shaped our dietary beliefs over the years.
Definitely.
It feels like the truth about our plant-powered past is finally sprouting into the mainstream.
Sprouting into the mainstream. Perfect. So it seems our ancient ancestors weren't necessarily these mammoth-slaying carnivores of popular imagination.
Not universally, anyway. For many, their sustenance came from the earth, from this incredibly diverse array of plant-based foods.
Absolutely. These studies just highlight the amazing adaptability of human diets throughout history and across all these different environments. And there's a clear, significant role for plant foods in that story.
It really challenges those simplistic, meat-centric views of the past and offers a really compelling counter-narrative, I think.
This deep dive has certainly given me a lot to think about. It really does uproot some deeply ingrained ideas about what constitutes a natural human diet. And it makes you question the stories we've maybe just accepted about food and nutrition.
Agreed. It encourages us all, to look beyond the sound bites and appreciate the rich, varied tapestry of human dietary history. And it certainly strengthens the case for embracing a plant-powered future, one that might be grounded in a surprisingly plant-rich past.
Couldn't agree more. Well, thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey back in time, everyone. Until our next delicious discovery, keep those veggie vibes strong.
Absolutely. And keep digging for the truth. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep enjoying all the incredible bounty that the plant kingdom has to offer.
Did you know we have a vegan search engine, a vegan forum, a vegan newsletter, and so much more coming soon? So why not check us out at Caavakushi.com. Thanks for listening. We hope you liked this episode. If you did, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. Also, we would be so appreciative if you could just share this episode or this podcast with all your friends and family who are vegans or vegan friendly. We're also really excited because we are going to be launching something really cool pretty soon on the site, so keep an eye out for that. And we will see you really soon with a new episode.